Moya Mawhinney is an artist, a traveler, an avid reader, and today we're gonna dive into some of the books she's read.
It was actually first done as a play and not a novel, which makes so much sense because it's split into 4 chapters or acts and everything takes place in this one coffee shop.
Before the Coffee Gets Cold is about this cafe somewhere in Tokyo. It's an old cafe, and it's not just any cafe, it's a place where you get the chance to travel back in time. However, there are a lot of rules you have to follow. One of them is that you have to return to the present before the coffee gets cold. Here we follow 4 visitors, 4 different stories, but they are all interconnected. I loved it. Moya didn't. I love the author's concept of time traveling here. I love that no matter what the character does when time traveling, the present cannot be changed. But the only thing that's changed is that person who time traveled. They get a new perspective of whatever baggage they have that made them want to time travel in the first place. I couldn't put the book down when I was reading it. I finished it quickly. I have no complaints about it.
I actually find it quite stressful. Maybe it's just, I don't know. I feel like I'm a goody goody two shoes and I hate people doing things wrong, and so the whole way through this I was like, what bad thing is gonna happen to her because she like fucked up at the beginning.
Yellowface is a book about a struggling writer named June who's always been jealous. Okay, no, not always, but for a long time has been jealous of her friend Athena, who is a literary darling. When Athena dies in a freak accident, June takes her unpublished manuscript and published it as her own. And she succeeds thanks to that. But people are starting to become suspicious. Evidences start to creep in, and she does whatever it takes to make sure that she doesn't lose that sweet taste of success. I was hooked in the beginning, then the middle part was boring, and then the last third was fun. It has a bit of a thriller element in it. And then the ending is it's an open-ended ending and I'm not a big fan of that. I think the middle part is longer than necessary. It feels a bit repetitive. I do like the topics being presented here though. It talks about envy, comparison to others, cultural appropriation, diversity, racism, and how ridiculous people in social media can be. I do resonate with the main character's struggle with envy and how most of the things she does in the book just stems from a deep insecurity. Oh man, the things you do when you're so insecure.
So focus on hitting targets is really just gonna take out the enjoyment of actually reading. I don't know, in this inner child spirit, I've been taking up old habits.
All the Lovers in the Night is about a 35-year-old freelance copywriter named Eerie. She doesn't socialize much. She tends to isolate herself and she only just talks to her coworker the whole time. At one point, she realizes that she's overdue of changing her life for the better, and so she decides to do something about it. This book is boring. I practically skimmed on the last third until the last chapter. The pacing is slow. The story felt more like a series of interconnected anecdotes, which apparently is what literary fiction is, by the way. It took me 3 books to realize that I am not a fan of Mieko Kawakami's work. It's a good book. It's just not for me. Not to say that her books suck, but I just can't seem to connect with her writing style.
I loved reading My Brilliant Friend by Elena Ferrante this summer. I know we're into September and it's not really summer vibes anymore, but that is just the perfect beach read, summer read.
My Brilliant Friend is a book about 2 friends, Elena and Leela. They are intelligent girls trying to rise above societal expectations. The book is also about their neighborhood and the intricacies that lie within. Thanks to this book, I finally realized that I don't like lit fic. I'm not into literary fiction at all. I was not I was not able to finish this book. I can't. I just couldn't take it anymore. It's so boring. I thought I could finish it because each chapter does not have a lot of pages. A lot of them are just 3 pages long. And I appreciate that. I love that. It's bite sized. But the more I read it, the more I realized that I just can't go on. I just can't. I feel like if I continue reading it, I would quit reading altogether, all over again. Again, the pacing is really slow for my taste. I don't like how all the characters are being introduced at once, just like that. I feel like the writer just shoved all the characters right in your face in the beginning of the book. Like, how am I supposed to? uh, It's like, hi, here's my story, but first you're gonna have to learn about all these characters. Boom. There are about, I don't know, 50 of them, and you have to know.
I feel like with every sentence, I really have to reflect with what he's saying. It's been a really nice way to start journaling in the morning. I'll read one little chapter or a few pages and reflect on that.
The Creative Act is a book written by Rick Rubin, who is a music producer. And in this book, he shares his wisdom about creativity and living life as an artist. I actually read this book already before making this video, but I didn't get to finish it because I thought it was boring and wordy. My first impression of that book was like, okay, I get the gist. Next. But I'm glad to have picked up this book again and read it. I like the choice of words. It's worded beautifully. Maybe, I guess it can be wordy sometimes. I don't think it doesn't always apply to the lives of an artist. I think it also applies to self-improvement as well. Like there's this part about listening that really resonates with me. I love the way Moya reads this book. She really took the time to read it, to reflect on each chapter of the book. She'd literally journal about it. And I think it's an interesting take on that book. I'd love to do that, but not now. Maybe someday. I noticed that Moya is very fond of literary fiction. I, on the other hand, thanks to this video, realized that I am not into literary fiction. I find the pacing too slow. It feels like it doesn't have an ending, a proper ending. Also, I prefer a more straightforward writing style. I adore Moya's preferences. I actually do wish that I like litfic because despite what I said, I do think that the writing style is pretty. I just don't have the brain capacity to appreciate that. If you're someone who's into if you're someone who's into literary fiction or you're thinking about exploring that genre, definitely check out Moya's channel. She talks about books often. All right, this was fun. I'll definitely be making more of these. So if you have any suggestions, you can comment. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.